Hello, America. Tonight is a very special episode of the Glenn Beck program on GBTV. What you're about to see and hear are things that no one in the mainstream media is willing to show you. I ask you to share this information with your friends and family. It is time to know your enemy. I think no one else in the media will show these things because they're afraid, or their network or they as individuals have an agenda. They have been pressured by politically correct groups, and so they will not tell you the truth about the greatest threat to peace and security on planet Earth today. Powerful lobbying pressure groups like CARE and others have successfully painted Muslims, all Muslims, as victim in the aftermath of September 11th, while ignoring the real problem, not just to you, but to Muslims in America, and that is radical Islam. Tonight, you're going to come face to face with evil, and it's an evil that you won't see anyplace else for some strange reason. You will see not just a Middle Eastern problem. This is a problem that is coming here to America. We are seeing problems of honor killings now in America. Then, yesterday, I saw this story. St. Louis, Missouri, an Iraqi immigrant was brutally attacked. He had the Star of David sliced into his back. Here he is. He was taken off the street and held as two men did this to him. Why was this man carved? Because he's a Muslim. It was revenge for a poem he published titled Tears at the Heart of the Holocaust, for simply expressing his shock and sadness at the murder of 6 million Jews. That is what he got carved into his back. And I remind you again, that is not Iran. That is in St. Louis, Missouri. Things are much, much worse in Iran. There is this man. He's the pastor at a church in a small evangelical community in Iran. He converted to Christianity at the age of 19. He's currently 32. He was arrested in October 2009 and condemned to death for apostasy under Islamic Sharia law. Apostasy, rejection, word of deed of Islam, that's how we're going to be using it tonight. Khalifa, the United Muslim Nations under the Islamic rule. Khalifa is also caliphate. Remember that, because we've always talked about it as a caliphate. But the Islamic world uses caliphate. Instead, they use Khalifa. Hizb ut-Tahrir, that is an organization dedicated to achieving the Khalifa, the caliphate, and rule the world under Islamic law. Takbir, that's Arabic for God is greatest. Allah Takbir. You will hear some chants in the background of some of these speeches. They will say, Takbir, Allah Takbir. And then Ummah, that is the collective Muslim community. Ummah. Now, here's what the Quran says about apostasy. The punishment of those who wage war against Allah and His Messenger and strive with might for mischief through the land is execution or crucifixion, or the cutting off of hands and feet from opposite sides, or exile from that land. That is their disgrace in this world, and a heavy punishment is theirs in the hereafter. A unified Islamic state, a caliphate or Khalifa, is the end game for radical Islam. The media can mock and ignore the reality all they want, but that will not make it go away. It will only delay our preparing. What was it the New York Times said about the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt? Do you remember? In the emerging battle lines of post-revolutionary Egyptian politics, many liberal activists and observers abroad say that they fear that the Brotherhood's organizational strength will give it an edge in the election for parliament this fall. Notice they're only saying that it was liberal observers and activists. But there was a conservative that pointed this out long before this was in the New York Times. And what was it that the critics said during the Arab Spring?
There was an interesting split among the Glenn Beck types, really with delusional ravings about the caliphate coming back.
delusional ravings about the caliphate coming back. I want you to remember the caliphate, Khalifa, because that's what we're here about tonight. What I said back last year, and you might remember this, I put this up on my board over at Fox. I had this, and we'll go over it in a minute. I said this in January, and it was about the caliphate. It was about that. But you'll also remember I said, when it comes to Egypt, the best organized will win. And when it comes to any revolution, the best organized will win. It's why I've been telling you, please gather with friends. Please organize. Reach out to others. The most organized is now, it seems to me, with the unrest in Europe, Middle East, and America, is the Muslim Brotherhood and those calling for revolution. It would be the radicals, the Islamists, the communists, and the socialists. The rest of us are being told to pay no attention. You must know what's waiting in the wings. What I'll show you tonight is a group of people that have a constitution ready to replace ours, ready to go. And they are active from city to city, country to country, and all across the globe. Please take these men at their word. Listen to what they say, not me, what they say is coming. This is the latest Khalifa conference. Victory is near, and the time is now. This happened in Chicago, June 26th. No one has reported on this that we know. It's a conference that they had, and I think this is nice. It was free admission, and babysitting was included, so bring the kids. Hizbut Tahrir has these conferences all over the world. In fact, here's another one of the conferences right here. I'm sure it wasn't violence that caused New York to look like this. I'm not sure. But they had these conferences in at least 43 countries. Now, I say at least 43 countries because we can't verify any more than 43 because they operate in most countries clandestinely. Why? Because they're banned throughout the Middle East. They're banned in Russia. They're banned in post-Soviet Central Asian states. They're banned in Germany, actually more shunned in Germany because of its virulent anti-Semitism. But strangely not banned in the West or here in America. Hizbut Tahrir's website offers this. It's their FAQ, their frequently asked questions. Here it is, their website, you see. And what is Khalifa? Is it a republican system, imperial? What is it? Is it theocratic? And you come down all the way to the bottom, and it says, what are the opinions of organizations and individuals regarding Hizbut Tahrir's ideas and action? Well, I found this one interesting as we went down the list and looked. We found this organization that says it advocates the restoration of an Islamic Caliphate, and it differs from jihadi groups which share this objective in abstaining from violent activity. This according to the International Crisis Group. The International Crisis Group, they abstain from violence? Do you remember who the International Crisis Group is? The International Crisis Group, this is their report on understanding Islamicism. The International Crisis Group is the one we told you last year that helped create the Responsibility to Protect initiative through Cass Sunstein's wife. Who's at the head of this? Who's doing a lot of the funding of this? George Soros. This is the group that pushed us into war with Libya. And the Responsibility to Protect. I will tell you that they're holding true to their name. They have a responsibility to protect, and they are protecting. It's just not you. It's Hizbut Tahrir. Now, you'd think that some of this would be a news story, but this group, Hizbut Tahrir, is so ignored by the media that they hold a conference that advocates replacing the Constitution in favor of Islamic law. They talk about a violent revolutionary overthrow of the United States, and they do it just weeks before 9/11, and there's not a peep. And they did it in the hometown of the President of the United States, Chicago, Illinois. The conference was titled revolution in the Muslim world, from tyranny to triumph. What you're about to see tonight are the clips of this conference. It happened on June 26th between 2 and 5 in the afternoon at a hotel just outside of Chicago. Tonight we will also give you the history of where this group came from and the history of the Muslim Brotherhood. But we want to start with the actual conference. This is a section that they called Breaking the Shackles. Watch.
We are ready for success and martyrdom. And what greater martyrdom than speaking a word of truth before an unjust ruler? La ilaha illallah! The West was trembling with fear as it should be. Every day contradicting itself. One day with the tyrants and the next day with the people. But the Ummah is far smarter than they expected. This Ummah recognized that they were the real enemy. Only the Khalifa will heal our wounds. We have been victims of their corruption, their ideas, their systems for far too long. We want our ideas, our systems, our glory. Sticks, bullets, and drones are no match for this Ummah's power. The shackle of ignorance and fear have been broken, and there is no turning back. Honor awaits us. This Ummah is still standing after the collapse of communism, and this Ummah will continue to stand after the collapse of capitalism. So break all the shackles of nationalism, the shackles of capitalism, the shackles of secularism and tribalism. Do not allow for division. After all, our God is one, our messenger is one, our book is one, our Qibla is one, and our Khilafah is one. So uproot all these systems and firmly plant your Khilafah.
Uproot all of these systems and plant the caliphate. And he was tired. He said, we are tired of living under their system. We will live under ours. Take note that that is capitalism that is keeping them in shackles. You, by the way. The other shackle is nationalism. Now, why do they hate nationalism? Watch.
Whether we're in Toronto, California, New York, Mississippi, Texas, or wherever else we may come from, it's from all of us. We Muslims in the United States are an inseparable and unshakable part of an international ummah, and we should never accept anybody offering nationalism or some tribal identity that separates our beautiful body from each other.
I want you to remember that part. They don't want their body to be separated. They are one ummah, one group of people living under Islam, no matter where they live. Now, you know who else speaks very similar to this, hates nationalism, and thinks America is the only one standing in the way of change? That would be the guy who helped put this together, the International Crisis Group, George Soros. If I may quote George Soros from his own book, "The main obstacle to a stable and just world is the United States. The Bush agenda is nationalistic. It emphasizes the use of force and ignores global problems whose solution require international cooperation. Changing the attitude and policies of the United States remains my top priority." Age of Fallibility, George Soros. I want to go back to the theory that I had. I said this on January 31st. I said this complete thought, put it up on a chalkboard. Radicals, Islamists, communists, and socialists will, 1, work together against Israel. 2, work together against capitalism. 3, work together to overturn stability. Have they done those things? Part 2, the protest will become contagious. They will cascade. They will sweep the Middle East. They will destabilize Europe and the world. That's January of 2011. Of course, that idea was panned. But can you see why this works? This works because these people may not have very much in common. They are not really truly working together in the traditional sense. They are working against a common enemy. And that common enemy is the Western way of life. Israel capitalism and the United States of America. So they will work together until it doesn't match up anymore. But by that time, capitalism and the Western way of life is gone. It's time for us to wake up.